We are live. Welcome everybody. Welcome. Double checking. Can you hear me? OBS says yes. Can you hear the piano? Looks like it. Excellent. We're good. Welcome Coffee Acorn. Welcome Soften. Awesome. I'm glad you guys can make it to the stream for the first time in a while. We've got a good one. Let's see. We've got more submissions this time. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 submissions this month. I'm very excited. Thank you to everybody who submitted music. Let's see. Let's get started, shall we? No need to just kind of slow down. Blank. Welcome. Coffee Acorn. Hey, you're in the comments. This is your first. So requests. I feel like I'm stuck in the tonic to subdominant dominant tonic cycle with my chord progressions, which leaves me with the early middle classical sound. While it fits at this piece, it does limit what else I can write. Is there any good ways to get out of the classical era sound? Yes. Ooh, good question. Harmony. Harmony is one of my specialties. So this will be a lot of fun. I will explain. Let me find a notebook. Sorry. I need a notebook so I can take notes while we do this. Once we listen to this, we'll give it a listen, then I'll explain what you mean by the tonic, subdominant, dominant tonic cycle so everyone can be on the same page, and then we'll learn some ways to break it. All right, let's get started. Oop, let's start over. I love the dynamic contrast. What a lovely, lovely piece. Well done, Coffee Acorn. I am a sucker for a good polyphonic arrangement. Polyphonic meaning there's multiple melodic ideas playing at the same time. Let's see, comments, requests, then I'll share my thoughts, and then I will answer the question you had. Hey, Baba, welcome. Thank you very much. I'm so glad that my videos have been helpful for you. Let's see here. Samples from MuseScore. It sounds like they might be from MuseScore. MuseScore has really improved. In MuseScore, when I remember when MuseScore, this free notation software, first came out, I found it in high school. I was in high school like the early 2010s. So I graduated high school in 2013, and I found MuseScore like early in high school. So, it's come so far since then, and the quality of the samples are amazing. All right, excellent. So let's talk about this first, shall we? My notes. All right, we'll say my notes. All right, first, this is not something you asked about, but the first thing I'm going to mention is from the start. From the start, you start off right away with counterpoint. All right, you start right away with multiple melodic ideas going on. When using polyphony, counterpoint, which is just the idea that, again, you have multiple melodic ideas playing at the same time. It's a very, very beautiful technique. When using polyphony, it can be helpful to introduce each voice one at a time. This has to do with the 3 pillars of good arranging or orchestration. I've talked about these at length in multiple live streams, multiple feedbacks. We've talked about separation, focus, and balance. These 3 are necessary to create clarity in your arrangement. Now, focus, separation is the idea that each layer has its own identity, that each of these layers sounds like its own idea. Focus is the idea that your audience never really has a difficulty focusing on which line is most important. If you have a primary melody, that melody should maintain the most attention. Now, if you want a video breaking this down, just look up 3 pillars of good orchestration, tabletop composer. This video right here, this one right here will help quite a bit. All right. But my main idea is when you have multiple ideas that start right at the bat, it can sound cluttered. It can sound busy. Let's see. I actually think there's an example pre-written. Nope, not in this one. Right here. I think, let me double check. I think this is a sample from a previous live stream. All right. Yeah. So we've got multiple ideas. Listen to what happens with this. Let me see if this is working. Uh-oh. Is Cubase frozen? Aha. All right, so massive is not working right now. Let's see, routing, off. Amp should be fine. Oscillator should be fine. How do I reinitiate this? I remember there's a way to reinitiate. But you know what? Let's try duplicating it and just see if that works. Because what I want to do is I want to play this last little bit here. And show how, let's just have to start over. You're going to see how each of these little ideas. Why is massive not working? Okay, so we'll just put this on the piano. So you're going to see how each of these ideas, we have 4 ideas going on right here. We have a top layer, which is the melody. We have a second counterpoint melody, and then we have a bouncing bass line. Only 3 layers, like yours did. Listen to how hectic this is going to sound. And if we swap this out, I don't like that piano, una quarta piano. It's nice, but it's not what I'm looking for here. Let's go for the grandeur. But you are going to hear. And let's speed it up a little bit, shall we? Listen to how hectic this sounds. Right? Now listen to what happens when we introduce the layers one at a time. First, with just the top melody and a bass line. When we get over here, you're going to hear how it suddenly sounds much more clear. Adding another layer. And then the last layer, we're gonna have the bass line come in. And notice how now you can focus on the melody. Now it sounds complex. Now it sounds rich. It's not chaotic. There's still clarity. That's because by allowing each layer to enter one at a time, and you don't have to do full 8-bar phrases like this. You could have introduced the secondary layer halfway through. You could have done it earlier. But as long as each idea has the chance to be introduced on its own, it'll give significant more clarity to arrangements like yours. All right, so that's the one trick is with polyphony. When you're working with multiple melodies, you have to be careful that you don't just try throwing everything all at once. Otherwise, it's going to sound a little chaotic at first. Now, that's not what you asked about, but that is something I wanted to share. What you asked about, my friend, you asked about harmony. Very specifically, you said that you are struggling with the tonic, subdominant, dominant, tonic cycle. So let's talk about what that means for people who don't understand. Let's look at a major scale, all right? C major. All right, C major, this is it. Oops, gotta have the piano. And again, this is something, if you want watch my playlist, Harmony for Composers, it'll break all of this down in much more detail. We have a C major scale. If we were to build all of the diatonic chords of the scale, diatonic meaning the chords that belong to this scale, all little triads, we would have all of our chords. All right, simple enough. Now, within major and minor key harmony, functional harmony divides chords, or we say doesn't divide, but categorizes chords based on their function relative to the tonic. All right, the tonic is the chord that your scale is named after. So C major is the chord that the scale C major is named after. In a major scale, we have a few different options. We have the tonic chords, which are the 1, 3, and 6 in a major scale. These are scales that sound like they've got nice strong energy. There's not a lot of tension involved. Then the second group we have is the subdominant, which it depends on who you ask. The set can be the 2, 4, and 7. That's just the one chord again. Now the 7, and then whoever you ask, we then have the dominant. All right? The dominant being the 5, and then again, sometimes, depending on who you're asking, the 7. Traditionally, the 7th chord of the major scale is treated as dominant. So, but all this to say, we have tonic chords, we have subdominant chords, and then we have dominant chords. And these are all just different categories based off how much energy they have. All right, and again, if you want a significantly more in-depth tutorial, I have an entire playlist based on this, and my textbook. My textbook is based on functional harmony. And the tonic, subdominant, dominant, tonic pattern says that we can build a chord progression by picking any of the red chords, for example, C, E, G, which is a tonic chord. We can then pick any of the subdominant chords, for example, any of the green ones. And then we can do a blue chord, the dominant chord. There we go. And then we can end on another red chord. And this is the pattern of functional harmony. Tonic, subdominant, dominant, and then tonic again. All right? It's a lovely, lovely pattern. This is a very strong pattern. Going tonic, subdominant, dominant, tonic. That's one pattern. Another pattern is to go basically red chord, any other chord, red chord, any other chord. And again, you can pick any of them, all right? Again, if you want a significantly more in-depth look up Harmony for Composers, Tabletop Composer. This one, Harmony for Composers, Functional Harmony, and Voice Leading. And then, of course, if you are interested in supporting your boy, I do have a 400-page textbook that you can get on my website or on Amazon. My website only does ebooks, but Amazon has it. It has 5-star reviews, very good reviews. I spent a lot of time working on this. This is a book designed to take someone who is just a music enthusiast, zero training, and go all the way from just loving music and wanting to write music to, by the end of the final chapter, you are able to compose for the orchestra. Now, when you're stuck with this, I'm going to give you 2 different strategies, Coffee Acorn, for breaking free of this simple pattern. The first is reharmonization. All right, reharmonization is just basically the idea that once you have a simple chord progression, there's nothing wrong with this chord progression. This is a beautiful, very good, very perfectly fine chord progression. That's perfectly fine. But if you don't want that nice, wholesome, functional harmony sound, you can then go through and you can do little reharmonizations where you go through and you add some chords, like an augmented triad. Or you could take, we could do a diminished triad. Augmented triads and diminished triads are two of my favorite strategies for creating. So this is another diminished triad for creating more motion. So this is the original chord progression. And this one we've added in a couple augmented chords. Right? I just played the same chord progression twice in a row with a couple different inversions. So that's number one, is reharmonization. Now, again, if you want to learn how to use augmented chords and diminished triads, unfortunately, I'm already spending way too much time going into lessons right now because it's supposed to be live feedback. But if you want more, again, at this point, I've been doing YouTube for so long. Look up tabletop composer, look up my name, and then do like diminished triads. How to use diminished triads, like right there. I've got a short. How use triads to make chords more progressive, more interesting. That's a more in-depth tutorial. You can do the same with augmented triads. And see, how do you also, I got a short and I've got a full-length tutorial. See? Cool stuff like that. That's what I would recommend first. And then the second would be just change your pattern. If you don't like the tonic, subdominant, dominant, tonic pattern, come up with a different pattern. One of my favorites is period structure as a pattern for chord progressions. Because chord progressions, that's all you need is a pattern. Literally, that's the only ingredient behind a strong chord progression, is have a pattern. So period structure goes A, B, repeat A, and then come up with a way to end it, with a cadence of some sort. And I haven't even played this, but I know it's gonna work because I followed a pattern. And repeat. Functional harmony is only one pattern. If you want to break free, try different patterns. For example, that was period structure. What if we just did common tone? All right. What if I just said, all right, cool. I am going to just do any chord. I can pick any chords so long as they have an A. All right, so cool. And then the pattern can always be interrupted by your cadence. And then repeat to legitimize your idea. Oops. Right? Simple as that. Hopefully that helps. All right? With that, my friend, let's move on to the next submission, shall we? So, Coffee Acorn, thank you very much, my friend. Sutanva, a regular of the channel. What and how can I do better in terms of melody writing, mixing, mastering, etc.? As a newbie, I get pretty overwhelmed with the amount of information online and would suit me perhaps at this point, and what would suit me perhaps at this point. I just need enough mixing or mastering techniques to submit scores, take part in competitions, or have something presentable. Please let me know. Okay, I can give you some tips. if you could give me some good input on those, but about also melodies, chord progressions, and choice sounds. All right, we can focus a bit on mastering and mixing here, but let's listen to the music first. I like the pad. I like the little sounds you've got there. Very well done. All right, couple things. I love the minimalistic nature of this score. Done so well. So many people, when they're trying to write a new soundtrack, try to put as much stuff into it as they possibly can. But the golden rule to scoring, or just composing in general, is only use what you need. All right, and this is a very good example of just using only the bare minimum of what's necessary. I love that moment where the music cuts out right here. It's lovely. And the music comes back in very nicely as well. You could probably hit it a little bit harder with that little, maybe with a piano, with a chord in the bass, or whatever the key. I think that was like an A minor, or whatever you do. Hit it a little bit harder to give a little more of a timed start. That could work really well. Your sound choices are very good. I think something I would say is like around here, I would expect more energy in the music. Little Red is running. She's running. I love the soft idea. You can keep it soft, but you probably want a little something in the background to build that energy, because you want to make sure that this music right here for this scene has a shift in energy from over here. And right here, there's not that dramatic of a shift of energy. All right, but if you look at the screen, right here, this scene is significantly lower energy. We have slow-moving fog, slow-moving smoke coming on. There's not a lot of movement. But over here, she's running. The camera's jumpy. It's moving all over the place. You're cutting to different angles frequently. You're out of focus. There's lots of energy. So that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be huge, but you want to match that energy with the music. At the very least, you want there to be a discernible difference in the amount of energy in your music. So again, just even a soft little like brush snare, like tick, 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 something to add a bit more panic and energy. Now you were asking about your choice of sounds. That sounds great. You were asking about your melody. I think the melody is awesome. I think a nice simple idea, a nice minimalistic score like this works incredibly well. Now what I can offer for mixing tips. All right. I'm going to say if you just need enough, the mix on this sounds pretty decent. But if you are brand new and you are trying to learn how to mix music just enough, because you've got to get it done. Because you're like me, you prefer composing, but the projects you work on rarely have a budget for a huge team of editors, so you're probably gonna have to do your own mixing. A couple things in order of importance. All right, number one, most important, is your arrangement. You're gonna hear this all over the place. No amount of mixing can fix a bad arrangement. So focus on learning how to arrange music properly. Cool thing for this is I have a free class on this, Tabletop Composer. If you want to learn a strong approach, Academy page, I have 4 free classes. This one right here, Fundamental Arranging Techniques. Take that class, it's free. It'll give you everything you need to know that. I believe you've actually taken that one, so Tunva, you're one of the regulars. My textbook also teaches that, and if you would like more in-depth tailored things, I also do private lessons. All right, I have room in my schedule for a couple more students right now. Speaking of which, Motions and Music class is on sale, 20% off. Payment plans, all that stuff is available. I just got to use coupon code. This is my birthday celebration. I always do a sale on my birthday to celebrate. I'm turning 30, so to get 20% off, use coupon code FINEVINTAGE because your boy has turned over a new decade. All right, so, but that's not what we're talking about. For mixing, number 1 is have a good arrangement. Number 2, after this, the second most important thing is balance. You want to make sure the volume of each of your tracks are solid. Now, my recommendation for this, there are multiple different ways you could do it. You can trust your ears. You can use a reference track, listen to music that uses the similar instrumentation or sound you like, and try to balance your tracks off that. I'm going to recommend the pink noise method for beginners. Now, the pink noise method is not perfect. Look up pink noise method, Aubrey. I believe it's Aubrey Whitfield. Yep, right here. Using pink noise, any of these will really work, actually. The pink noise method is a method for using static. All right, I'm gonna close that. The pink noise method is a method for using a type of static known as pink noise. Let me find this. Pink noise is a very specific and special type of static because all of the frequencies are approximately equal. If I play this for a little bit, let's drop the volume because it's a very unpleasant sound. Look at the frequencies. They're relatively stable. And the cool thing about that is you can take an idea and you can say, all right, I'm gonna start with this 0 all the way down. I'm gonna slowly start raising it until I can just hear it over the static. What's going on? All right, just barely hear it. And then you can go through and you can do that for all your tracks so that they each sound approximately, you can approximately hear them over the pink noise by the same amount. And if you do that, it's gonna give you a very clean mix. Not the most artistic mix, not the most skillful mix, but it's gonna get you enough. It'll get you about 80% the way there, especially if you don't have particularly confident ears for mixing. Now, after balancing, the next important thing is going to be panning. All right, stereo field. Now for this is basically figuring out where on the digital stage your tracks are placed. Again, if you want a guide to this, I always feel a little limited with these live stream feedbacks because I've got so many pieces I got to get through. Go to my blog. And where is it? Where is it? Mastering Digital Spaces for Realistic Music. This one right here. This blog post will get you through mic positioning, panning, and reverb. All right, so this will fit you through that. But panning, making sure that the sound doesn't feel all mono. It's not all crammed in one spot. That you make sense of like, oh, the trumpets are a little over there. The flutes are a little bit over there or whatever, wherever you situate them. So that you have a more realistic sound. All right. And so that you don't have frequency masking, where similar sound waves kind of mash into each other and end up hurting each other and sounding off. After panning, I would say is reverb is next important. And again, this same article will help with that. Making sure everything sounds like it's coming from the same room. Sounds like it's recorded in the same room. And then, lowest on the totem pole is EQ. And just remove room tone. All right? So what do I mean by room tone? If you don't know what you're doing with the EQ, don't touch it. You can mess up your sound. But let's pull up a contact library. Let's pull up a solo cello. Whenever sample libraries in particular are being recorded, part of the room is recorded with the library. Just it's inevitable. So even though I'm playing this high note, you can see a little bit of rumble down here. There's actually not that much. This is a good library. But you can add a little EQ to cut off that little rumble. It's not down there anymore. If I turn this off, it comes back. Now you might say, hey, that's not that much sound. That's not that much frequency. Why do you have to get rid of it? Which is why it's the lowest on the hierarchy here. But the reason why is because if you've got 12 different tracks, all with room tone, all that rumble, then you've got 12 versions of that room tone. Whereas if you were just recording 12 musicians in one room, you wouldn't have 12 versions of the room tone. You'd have a tiny little bit. So when you're using sample libraries especially, it's very important to kind of remove that little end to create a clear mix. Now, I understand. This is a very, very fast-paced lesson. Of course, the format of these live streams, unfortunately, limits us to what we can go through. I know I still need to make a tutorial series about mixing. I want to do it for the class, the Academy. So, purchasing my books, making donations to the Academy, joining my class, these are all things that help support me, help make a bit of money, so that I can start dedicating time to making more free classes on mixing and whatnot. I want to do one on mixing. I want to do one on creating realistic mock-ups, which is making your music with sound libraries sound realistic. And I want to do one on notation, on how to like read music notation and how to write music notation and prepare score parts and stuff like that. Those are all things I'd like to do, but I need to make sure that my bills are paid before I can dedicate that time to creating free resources. So check it out. Check out my bookshop. Everything helps support ya boy. All right. So hopefully that helps, Sutanva. Excellent. Wonderful. Let's see here. Epic Fish, has the composition in Locrian mode by Eterna already been viewed? Not yet. I am moving very slow, but that is next. Let's do it. Eterna, been making rounds on the Discord channel with talks of 7/4 time in the Locrian mode. All right. I have been debating whether to cut some snare drum beats out, in particular the snare hits on beats 1, 6, and 7, except for every fourth measure while it's in 7/4 time. Please help me decide which way to go at this point. All right, so basically, do I think the snare drum's too much? This is intended to be level music in a turn-based strategy game, specifically a ROM hack of a Fire Emblem game for the Game Boy Advance. As such, its lack of a concrete end is intentional. Okay, good to know. You will notice the repeat bars in the recorded footage. I told MuseScore to ignore these for the screen recording to respect the length limit. Thank you, I appreciate that. But these repeat bars are where the music will loop during gameplay. My worry is whether stewing at C will be engaging to the players, despite how proud I am of this piece. And if you have any suggestions to improve this, I should be able to attend to the live stream to elaborate on the plot reasons I composed this the way I did. Excellent! I always love hearing that. So yeah, share your thoughts. Why did you write this the way you did, Eterna? I always love hearing about why people make their decisions, because I am a very intentional composer. My entire textbook is all about my methods for being intentional and why every decision I make is informed by the story I'm trying to tell. So I always love seeing what other people do and how you tell your stories. Additionally, I welcome any tips you might have for doing a better job at wrangling Locrian into submission and or using weird time signatures. Just anything you can think of. Might still be useful to mention this is during a stream, even if you think I'd demonstrate sufficient mastery of both or for the chat's benefit. Thank you, Eterna. All right, so basically, is the snare too much? And do I have any tips for how you could work with Locrian or weird time signatures? Let's give it a listen, shall we? Eterna, what structure did you use for this? Like, is this a rondo form piece? Very nice. Excellent. So, good work. No, I do not think the snare is too much. I mean, you could remove some beats if you want. That's your personal preference. But I don't think there's anything that you need to. Now, your question is about whether this piece is engaging to the players. All right? It's a fantastic question. And it brings up an idea of what makes music loopable. All right? This is very important for anyone who wants to do video game music. Now, as a disclaimer, I am not a video game composer. I've never worked on a video game before. That being said, I am fascinated by it. I would love the opportunity to work on a video game. I have spent time studying a lot of video game music. So, making music loopable. The idea is that you write music and it needs to be able to repeat over and over and over and over again without getting too stuck in your head. The good idea, the good news is in a video game, the focus is rarely on your music. That doesn't mean people won't notice it, but the focus is very rarely on your music. If you are trying to get through a story point, or you're trying to solve a puzzle, or you are trying to do battle, or you're doing something, the gameplay is taking your focus. So you already have that going for you. That makes it easier to be loopable because you're not focused on it, you're not noticing things quite as much. Now, besides that, the number one tool for loopable music is contrast. All right, creating contrast within your music. So things like move around different timbres. So this is one thing. Throughout almost the entirety of this piece, you have that marimba part or that xylophone part. It's like bum 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 bum. No, it's not entirely accurate. I've only listened to this once, so I'm sorry if I butchered your motif. It was very catchy. It returns a lot, and that's fine. But you might want to consider changing instruments. Maybe it goes from xylophone to the harp, and from there it goes from harp to, I don't know, gamelan. Maybe it goes from gamelan to xylophone again. Maybe it goes from xylophone to glockenspiel. But you're just moving around. Same motif, but you're moving it around to different instruments every couple bars. Every like phrase or so you change. That's a strategy John Williams uses a lot to get mileage out of a simple idea, is changing which instrument is playing it. Now, as you change different instruments to different registers is another one. Registers, the motifs being played down here on xylophone. Bum 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 bum, and then the next phrase it jumps up here. Bum 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 bum. Don't judge my singing, all right? But whatever. So you jump around. So it starts like in middle C, octave of middle C, Then it jumps up. Oops. Jumps up 2 octaves in the next phrase. Then it goes down 3 octaves in the next phrase. Then back to middle C octave. All right? But you can see how you're taking a simple idea and you're moving it around to keep it interesting. That contrast is important. Contrast in texture. Texture. So texture is another important strategy where every phrase or so, texture refers to the number and types of layers. So maybe in one layer, you've got melody plus bass line, all right? And then you go from melody to plus bass line to melody plus chords plus bass line. Then you go from there to melody plus counter melody, all right? Etc., etc., etc. All right? So, but the idea is like the number and types of layers are changing each phrase, each structure as well. And it keeps things interesting because the idea is the reason why you're using all of this contrast is because you're taking a simple piece of music and then when you reach the end of the music, you're repeating the whole thing or you're repeating a prominent section of it. So you want that section to be as rich as possible so that it doesn't get boring when it flips. Now, if you're using synths, simple pads, the synths, a complex sound, the complex / morphing sound can accomplish the same idea. So maybe you've just got a chord and you're just playing that one chord. But maybe over time, that chord, the sound transforms, becomes rounder, warmer, then thinner and colder, and you're doing all these different weird things to it. You bring in a little bit of, I don't know, like some other modulation effects in there to keep it interesting, where it's just one chord. But as the sound morphs, it keeps it interesting. But the idea is that it morphs, it changes. Now you do a good job about this in 2 places specifically. Around 1 minute and 48 seconds is where you add some contrast, and you can hear how it Instantly levels up the music. It changes, gives you more energy, a new concept. And then you do that again over on the 2-minute 50-second marker, although that one's more of a transition, so it's a lot shorter. But you're back to the original texture. And then again, you change it. The texture changes. You go from a wide number of instruments to just, it sounds like a bassoon and possibly a bass drum or timpani. All right? And that contrast, so that's another thing, contrast in instrumentation and the size of instrumentation, any of the different parameters. Remember, I like to teach 9 parameters of music. This is a method I developed. I did not invent the 9 parameters, but the method is something that I've created, where you have tempo, timbre, texture, rhythm, register, dynamics, articulation, melody, harmony, and is that all 9? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yes. So yeah, these 9 parameters, you can create contrast across any of these. You can try new harmony, new melody, new articulation, new dynamics, register, rhythm, tempo, timbre, whatever you want to try to introduce a little bit of context. So the reason why I asked you about rondo form is because rondo form is very popular in this genre of video game music for loopable. For those of you who don't know, rondo form goes A, B, we'll say A, B, A, C, A. All right? And the idea is you have this entire idea. You have a melody A. Then you have a new melody. Melody A returns. Then you have another new melody. Then you have melody A return again, etc., etc. And the idea is, as you do this, you start off with the original arrangement of the letter A. Then when it returns, you come up with a new arrangement of it. And then when you get to the end, you have your most complex, most strong return of it, arrangement of it. So that when you repeat the entire thing, you have a lot of variety. When you come up to, let's say each of these are 8 bars each. That's 40 measures. Double that, you have 80. 80 measures. And this melody is only heard twice. This melody is only heard twice. This arrangement of this melody is only heard twice. It gives it a lot more mileage. It makes it very loopable. I have a video about this. Top composer, Skyrim. This one. What composers can learn by listening to the Skyrim original soundtrack. This one right here. Check that out if you want to learn more about rondo form. But generally speaking, this is a very good piece. I'd say if you want it to be loopable, and if you are a little worried about it being engaging to the players, just focus section by section. How can you add more contrast? Which of these 9 parameters can you use in each section to make it sound more interesting, more unique? Because again, the idea being you want this to be a particularly dense piece of music. Still, you want it to be able to stand on its own. You still want it to be enjoyable. We don't want it to be so complex that it's crazy and it only makes sense if you repeat the entire thing. But having a bit more shift instead of just having the strings, xylophone and snare being almost constant throughout the entire thing. Try shifting from sustained chords to rhythmic chords, to arpeggios, taking low strings to moving to high strings, brass, woodwinds, get crazy with it a little bit. That'll help you get a lot more mileage. But all in all, this is a very good piece. I love the melody. I think it's an incredibly well thought out use of 7/4 time. Locrian mode sounds good. Good work. Very good work, my friend. Let's see here. So comments. Okay, so Eternal, I see that consistency with the remember was intentional. I was going for the stuck or numb. I feel like that also helps the listener keep track with the weird meter. Of course, awesome. So yeah, swapping to different instruments was just one example. If that's intentional, perfect. Keep it there. Do not change that. But create contrast using other strategies. All right, so moving around timbres, that was just one example. And if the xylophone, if the marimba needs to stay, you can still move the timbres of all the other ones. These are all options. So, of course, the concept, the biggest concept right here It's just the idea of introducing contrast if you want to be loopable. This is not to take away from the piece. This is a very good piece. It's very well written. This is just the idea of if you are worried about it being not loopable enough or not engaging enough, this is how you do that. This is how you create an engaging, loopable piece. Oof. Stream is lagging a little bit for Soften. That's unfortunate. I didn't even know rondo form was the thing. No worries. It's a very old form. Goes back to, I believe, the Baroque period. So it's one of those things where it's been around for hundreds and hundreds of years, and yet it's just kind of useful for video game music nowadays. Wonderful. Always happy to help, Sudanva. All right, Soften, another person who's in the stream. Let's listen to yours, my friend. What I'd love to get your opinion on is the mixing and mastering. As a whole, it's one of the better mixes, one of my better mixes and masters. Awesome. We've actually talked about this just a little bit. So if we can do a quick rehash if you'd like. If there's anything I noticed that's particularly horrendous, I can mention, but I doubt it if you say it's one of your better mixes and masters. So if there's anything else you'd like feedback on, since we've already talked about mixing and mastering, pop it in the comments and I'll see what I can come up with. The title is pretty self-explanatory for the setting, but it might be harder to pick up a little bit, is that this city is past its glory days and slowly falling to corruption. Ooh, I love a good story. There's more lore, but it's way too much to explain here. Fair enough, fair enough. Let's give it a listen, shall we? City Through the Pine.
Think about a child you love. Now take away their clean clothes, access to water.
Something that was beautiful. That was, I don't know if anyone else got this, but that gave me some real strong Dragon Age vibes. And now I want to play Dragon Age for the first time in years. That was beautiful, my friend. Well done. Well done indeed. So the mix was fantastic. Mix and mastering, fantastic. I don't have much I can offer. Nothing really stuck out to me as needing improvement. I think this is a very well-written piece. Or not to say that I can only offer feedback on improvement, but I got kind of lost in the music, which I guess is a good thing. And we are at the half point of the stream, which is where I start to lose a little bit of energy. So, anywho, what we're going to use yours as an example for is just a return to those basics of mixing and why this was a good mix. All right? So remember we said arrangement is the first one. This is a very solid arrangement. You make use of the orchestra very well. You move around. You provide good contrast. You make use of different textures and sounds. Everything, the chordal tones are weighted and spaced very nicely. The melodies are nice and strong. It's a great arrangement. After that, the balance was great. You accomplished great balance. Each of the layers sounded good. They sounded well balanced compared to each other. So the volume of each layers, your percussion didn't sound super quiet compared to your flutes. Your strings didn't sound overpowering. Your brass didn't sneak in through the back. Everything sounded relatively comparable in power. That's fantastic. After that, panning was great. You might have noticed at one point I was kind of like moving my headphones a little bit, and I could tell that you had panned your instruments very well, that the celli were a little on the left, or what it was on the left, and the other instruments were more on the right. Each instrument had its own unique space on the digital stage. After that, you had good reverb, especially there were a couple moments where I noticed you added a little extra reverb here or there, just a brief moments to have that sound just kind of hold on the air a little bit longer, to have like the final end of a phrase just kind of linger a little bit longer than the rest, which was beautifully well done. And then EQ. If you did any EQing, it was subtle. It wasn't overpowering. You didn't ruin your sound. Now, when I say ruin the sound, I should probably give an example. EQ, what EQ does is it removes frequencies. So this little one down here, we used EQ to remove a little bit of the room tone. But now watch what happens if I start removing too many frequencies. We can remove all of it. This no longer sounds like a cello. Right? Not as robust as it did down here. All right. If we do the same over here, where we start removing the high end. It can be really cool for sound design, but this does not sound like a realistic cello. Even if we start removing frequencies from the middle. This does not sound like a real cello. So like I said, EQ, too much EQ can ruin your sound. So if when you hear me say that, that's what I'm talking about. But the EQ was very tasteful. It just removed a bit of the room tone. It worked really well. And all of these things combined in order of importance, it makes a very good mix. So very well done, my friend Soften. Let's see some questions real quick. There's lots of people enjoying it. Lots of people really enjoying it. Let's see here. Any questions? I thought I saw one. Blank. Sorry if this was answered already, but what do you mean by contrast? Good question. So contrast just means differences. All right, so if I were to play this on cello and then play it on piano, same idea, but that's a contrast in timbre. I've used two different timbres. If I were to use two different volumes. That's a contrast in dynamics. If I were to use, do it down here, and then up here, that's a contrast in register. Where one's much about, so it's hopefully that makes sense. Where contrast in music is just using two different versions of the same element. So again, they provide contrast. They provide a difference, a point of reference that is different between the two. All right, and again, there are those 9 parameters that you can work with: tempo, timbre, texture, rhythm, register, dynamics, articulation, melody, and harmony. Every single one of those can be used to create contrast against themselves. So hopefully that answers your question. But welcome everybody who's on the stream. Well done, Soften. Did I accidentally exit out of my notes? I did, so Control-Shift-T, and we are back. That's another little thing. If y'all have noticed, a couple of my favorite little things, Control plus Shift plus T, is how you reopen a tab you accidentally exited out of. So like that, boom, it's back. Another helpful one, and this is not music related, is one of my favorites, the little arrow. So Alt plus 26 equals a right arrow. And you can just type arrows. It's very helpful. I don't know why I shared that with you. Excellent work, Soften. Well done. Mini Sai request. This is my entry for the Indie Film Music Contest. With this entry, I want to know if it's at a professional level or if there is still a long way to go. Excellent question. So, since this is for a contest, I do feel like I need to make sure, disclaimer, I am not a judge. And whatever I have to say about this will not be reflected by the official judges of the competition, especially since I am technically affiliated with the Indie Film Music Contest, since I created their Intro to Film Scoring class, and which is being updated currently, and we're releasing a brand new class for free with the Indie Film Music Contest that will be coming out for the next one. That is all about writing melodies, chord progressions, and bass lines. But let's give it a listen.
Why is the website still not live in English? Did you copy-paste all the content?
What the? I'm sorry. What a weird little movie. I love it, but it's a weird little movie. Let's see here. Soften, is this contest still live? Not at the moment, but they're doing a video game competition right now. They do 2 of each every year. They do 2 film music competitions, one in the summer, one in the winter, and 2 video game scoring competitions, one in the spring and one in the fall. They're an awesome organization. Give them a check out. So let's talk Mini Sci. Well done. Lots of things to do to be proud of. All right. Mini Sci. First off, I'm going to say my notes. Excellent work with the hit points. So, for those of you who don't know, hit points are moments when a shift in the music matches a shift in the story / on screen. When something happens on the screen and the shift in the music reflects it. Excellent work with this. Every single hit point you had made sense. Every hit point had a reason. So 3 of the most common reasons, and each of these you seem to hit. A shift in energy, a shift in mood or emotion, or a shift in plot. All right. The idea that the audience can tell, like, oh, information, I should say, information that results in a shift in energy, information in a shift in mood, or shift in plot. These are the 3 most common types of hit points, right? Moments where a shift in the music matches, it hits a moment where you get information that results in one of these shifts, all right? Fantastic job. Now, the next thing, it's one thing to identify a hit point. It is another thing entirely to match it with something in the music, all right? Now, at hit points, the music usually has a shift in valence. It gets darker or brighter. Size gets bigger or smaller. And energy. It's more gains or loses energy. This is something you did very, very well. Incredibly well. Especially for a beginner. Makes me wonder if you've taken classes or something. Or whether you just have a good instinct for it. Because this tends to be what gives your music shape in a soundtrack. You had a lot of really fun moments where it matches right there. That's a good hit point too. That's an example of a hit point. How that little trill happens as we mention, as we notice his panic. It's 6 p.m., but dinner is at 6. You saw that little look. So excellent job identifying those and matching those. Now you could have probably led into them a little bit. You probably didn't need to have that panic right on the button. Because that was a good one. That was a very good one. You could have ramped into it a little bit and had that little. You could have like a drum roll and then. Yeah, it works. It works well. It works well. I'm gonna stop. I'm overanalyzing it, but the hit points are done very well. I'd say the one thing. First off, your question about whether it's professional level. There is no professional level. All right. The only definition of professional level is if you've done professional work. And the only way of whether you're good enough to do professional work is if you find a director that likes your music. That's it. That's all it is. There's no professional. Now, whether you're asking if this is like John Williams level, obviously not. There's always stuff. I don't write stuff that's John Williams level. All right. That John Williams writes at a level that demonstrates his 70 plus years of writing music. All right. So it's not about comparing yourself to others. What I would say is your craft at scoring is fantastic. There are a few moments where your level of composition could be, where your craft at composition could be improved. So scoring being the application of music, writing music for a story, for screen. You've got that down pat. That's very well done. But there are a few moments, like around 2 minutes and 20 seconds, where the music itself could probably be improved a little bit. So this right here. That's a good idea. I like that. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. That's a great way to build some tension. So the ways I would improve that is probably increase more of a bass line. A bass line, something that goes constantly. So if you've got the cello, so if you got bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. Well, you get the idea where there's something underneath it, tying it together. So there's not that much dead space between. You could also, I mentioned this earlier with, I can't remember which of the pieces it was, but the idea of having a rhythmic idea going dum dum digga digga dum digga 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 dum dum digga digga dum dum digga digga dum dum digga digga dum dum digga digga dum dum. Something more constant, filling that space where it's not just bum 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 bibbidi bum, dead space. Bum bum bibbidi bum, dead space, which can work. But in a scene like this where there's lots of tension, where there's lots of energy, you don't want to have those gaps when there's supposed to be energy. This is an action sequence. These people are about to be killed by a bear wearing his face, who for some reason thought he was the man himself. It's a weird story, but I love it because it's weird. So there are different moments where that craft, where you could always improve. And these are just moments where it could be improved a little bit. But that's the name of the game. John Williams has improved. Hans Zimmer has improved. Howard Shore has improved. You're supposed to improve on the job. So is this professional level? Of course it's professional level. As long as you find someone who likes your music, who wants to work with you, it's professional level. It's not a matter about whether you're ready to find work. If you want to find work, go look for it. All right, stop waiting to be ready. I'm going to say that right now. If you want to be professional, if you want to find work, stop waiting. Just look for it. You will learn on the job. That's an expectation that you will learn on the job. There is no amount of studying, no amount of practice, no amount of learning you could possibly do that you would ever find a job where you don't learn something new, or you don't find that you're lacking a certain skill that you have to learn. John Williams talks about still learning new things. He's in his 90s, and he still says he learns new things when he starts a new project. Hans Zimmer has written over 200 film scores. He's worked on over 200 films, and he mentions how every single film he learns something new. Howard Shore is similar. James Newton Howard is similar. Every major composer, Pinar Toprak, every composer mentions learning something new. So stop worrying about whether you're professional level yet. Just find work. Look for jobs. Competitions like this are fantastic. I imagine you probably learned a lot writing this, didn't you? There are things you learned, ideas you came up with, skills you got better at because of this project, right? Awesome. You want to keep doing that. So keep finding competitions, keep finding work, find student projects, all right, to work on. Learn through working, all right? That's what I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. Wonderful work, my friend. Excellent work. Let's move on. Aditya, another regular of the channel. I don't know if I saw Aditya on here yet. Aditya hasn't been to a live stream in a little bit. He was on the one last week. Let's see here. Request, is this length okay? If not, then how to extend the beat length. Is the mix great? Awesome, let's work with this. This is the quickest beat ever because I worked at it as a commitment. So this is the fastest piece you've ever written. Excellent, as in terms of like, this is the piece that you wrote the quickest. Awesome, let's give it a listen, shall we? I like those little horns. I like the vibe. Nice! Especially for such a quick piece that you put together. I think this is really well. I think it's got good promise, didn't you? I like seeing the shift in your style, too. This is a more experimental piece than we usually get from you, because you usually do more kind of orchestral arrangements, don't you? I really enjoy this. So a couple things. First off, for the mix, balance is a bit much. There are a couple moments where there are some instruments that are obviously louder than others, and some that are obviously softer than others. You want to try and bring those in a little bit. Panning could help with that as well. Those horns, I really like those horns. Bum, 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 bum. I really like that sound. As they become more repetitive, a cool little element you can do with electronic music. Let's do this real quick. So we'll do this over here. So here's this piece from earlier that we were working with, right? So something you can do is, as an idea becomes more repetitive, you can apply a low-pass filter. And gradually remove some of the higher frequencies, just gradually, which helps it fall into the background. It still plays the important role it needs to play, but it literally makes space in the arrangement. By removing frequencies, it physically creates space for other instruments to come in. So that's something you could do with the horns that I think would be really, really cool. And another thing that you could do, which again, this goes back to what we were saying earlier. We're at that point in the stream now where a lot of the things I have to say, we actually have examples from earlier pieces. And the other one I would say is a couple moments in here. One way you could stretch this out, I think a minute, 50 seconds is perfectly long. But something you could do to make it last even longer is that use of incremental complexity we talked about. About allowing each layer to be introduced one at a time, like we did over here. Where we have the bass line introduced, we have our melody. And we don't rush to introduce the next layer. We take our time, establish our idea, and then once the idea gets established, you introduce a new idea. Let's get rid of some of that filter. I like the effect of the filter, but let's get rid of some of it. And then once this idea gets established, then we introduce another idea. And it gives you more mileage. Not only does it give you more mileage, but it adds more clarity to your piece. So, Aditya, my friend, I feel like I jumped in on feedback a bit too quickly, maybe. So, things I really enjoy. My notes. Things I really enjoyed. You have some great sounds. All right? You got great, I love those horns, like bum 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 bum. I love that. It's just the sound, it's juicy, it's weird, and I love it. You got lots of great sounds. Lovely ideas. All right, lots of short motivic ideas. I love music that layers a bunch of ideas. And lots of promise. This is a fantastic piece. All right, especially since you've submitted, I think Aditya has submitted more pieces than anyone else. And the growth you've experienced, my friend, is tremendous. I love seeing the variety now that you've changed styles. See, you've got so many great ideas going on. The piano part, the pads, the horns, the little, there's so many cool ideas in here that I love. I think the one issue is you're rushing it. That can be improved. Don't rush. Give your ideas time. Let us sit with this pad. This pad gets 2 seconds. Let us sit with it. Let us hear the pad. It's a beautifully rich pad. Let us sit with this for a measure or two. Give us 2 or 4 bars. Then bring in the piano. Let the piano sit for a little while. Then you can bring in the chimes. Bum, bum, ba-da-dum. So yeah, the chimes are good. The chimes are a little bit of a balance. If you bring the chimes down a little bit, it won't stick out so much. It'll sound more fluid. It'll sound more like a transition if it's not in your face as much. And again, that's where the balance will help. And the pink noise method I mentioned earlier will help a lot with that. And then you have new pads. You have new pads. Let us sit with those new pads for a little bit. Don't rush too much. Allow us to sit with your ideas. Trust your audience. Here's the thing. Okay, this goes to all of you. All right, all of you. Pay attention. All right, this is important. You are going to think your ideas are more boring than your audience will. Why? Because you listen to your ideas on loop dozens of times, minimum, while you're composing. So Aditya, you and a lot of people have submitted music today. These ideas, you're worried that they're gonna get boring, so you have to throw in new ideas, but that's not the case. Your audience is hearing this for the first time. Give them time to process it. That's important. Your audience has not heard these pads for 30 minutes, within 20 seconds. Give us time. And you're gonna be amazed how much more mileage you get out of your music and how much more clarity you get from your idea. Again, I've used this example, I think 3 times today, and it's an old counterpoint piece that we did for like an example. This is an 8-bar idea. If I throw it all right here, to me, this sounds perfectly fine. If you've been on the stream for all this entire time, it might sound perfectly fine for you because you've heard it enough times. But if this is your first time hearing this, it sounds like a chaotic mess. You don't know where to focus on. You don't know which one's the melody. You don't know where your ear should be going. And so I take this 8-bar idea and I can stretch it into 24 simply by giving my audience time to hear each layer one at a time. Introduce a new layer. And allow that idea to sit with it for a little while. And then add another idea. Generally speaking, if you're looking for a ballpark number, 4 bars. 4 bars tends to be a perfect length to sit with an idea. 4 bars, sometimes it can be longer, Sometimes it can be a little shorter, like 2 bars. That's up to you. But don't rush. Give your audience time. You've got good ideas. You have good ideas, and your ideas, because they're good, they deserve to be given space. They deserve to be heard with clarity. So don't rush it. Give yourself time. But wonderful work. I'm excited to see what you do with this. This is different from the usual style that you submit. So I'm very excited to see what you do with this. Well done, my friend. Sudanva, it's happy to see you enjoy the music table. Thank you. I really enjoy this. I really love these. I've gotten comments in the past where people accuse me of trying to find good things to say about everyone, about having to fake my enthusiasm. I do not fake my enthusiasm. I love literally every piece that has ever been submitted. I love this. So let me give you my perspective. I am someone who struggled to learn how to write music. I did not write my first piece of music until I was 22. I was in a graduate program for therapy when I wrote my first piece of music. And I realized that's what I wanted to do with my life. And I struggled. I struggled so freaking hard to learn how. Everywhere I looked, there were paywalls. YouTube was not the resource it is today. Back then in like the 2010s. YouTube was not the resource it was. The classes were not around as available. Back when I got started, the only online class you could find was with Evident. Evident is a great website, but when you think about all the different composing platforms now, like it's like Into the Score, I'm blanking out, but there's at least 5 different great websites for this. Like Ryan Leach wasn't around. I wasn't around. Like the only music theory channel that was really around was Rick Beato, and he doesn't do a lot of music theory for film scoring. So it was so hard struggling. So you have to understand my perspective as someone who struggled so much to learn this. The fact that I get to do a live stream where people want me to listen to your music, where you guys are trusting me with your music, where you are sending me pieces that a lot of you say I inspired with my lessons. That's amazing. That's one of the best things I could possibly experience. I never would have predicted this. So it makes me genuinely happy to hear this music, and it makes me so excited. And there's always something good to be found. There's always something good to be found. Because I'm not sitting here to lord over and say, all right, how does all of you compare to Beethoven? No, that's not what I'm doing. I'm not sitting here like, I'm not even saying, how do you compare to each other? What I'm saying is like, I meet you where you're at. This is the music you gave me. This is the music you have shared. And I want to encourage that. I want to reward you for that. I want to say this is amazing because it is amazing. You have made music. You have shared music, and that's incredible. Do you know how very few people in the world, do you know how many few people in history made music? And of all those people, of those very few, of that rare few that made music, do you know how many of them shared it? Even fewer. You are part of a very, very select few people who said, I made something and I want to share it. I want to put it out there. And not only are you saying that you're sharing it, you are putting it out here, you are saying I'm putting it out there specifically to get better. I want to write more. I want to make more. I want to share more. And to do that, I want to get better. And so the fact that you guys are sharing this is incredible. I do not take that lightly. I do not take it lightly. This amazes me every single time I do this. The fact that people are willing to say, this is something I want to do. And I want your help. That you guys do trust me to help with this. That you trust the community to help you with this. It's amazing. It really is. I get so much energy and enthusiasm from this. I get motivated to keep doing it myself because of the incredible contributions you guys make to this community. So yes, thank you. I do get enthusiastic about this. I do love this. And no, I'm not just trying to find nice things to say about everybody's piece. I genuinely believe all of these are incredible pieces of music, and they are incredible because you made them. And again, when you think about that, how many billions of people are on the planet right now? How many of them make music? And of those, how many of them share their music? When you realize how infinitesimally small that population is, you realize that every piece of music is incredible. Every piece of music that gets put out there is precious and contributes to culture, contributes to people, contributes to music as a whole. It's just beautiful. It blows me away. I hate everything. Where do I send? Wonderful question. So I do this every month. Usually it's the last Friday of the month, but the last month, August, I had to reschedule. So that's what we're doing here. The very next one will be September 26th. It's usually the last Friday of each month. September 26th. So the week up to there, send me your music to my either my email, tabletopcomposer@gmail.com, or you can send it to my Instagram, tabletopcomposer. Send it to my Instagram as a message, and I'll usually have an announcement. I think I did the announcement on my stories this time, but it should be 4 minutes longer or less. It should be shared as a YouTube link or a SoundCloud link. And you can, I send reminders on Instagram, I send reminders on my YouTube page, and I send reminders on the Discord channel. So you can also just set a reminder, the 26th. So set a reminder for yourself on the 22nd. That's when I start accepting them, and then submit them, and so that I can do it by then. Unfortunately, submissions are closed. They closed last night at midnight. It's always Thursday. So the deadline will be the 25th. 25th at midnight, or the 26th, the first hour of the 26th. That's the deadline. But I do this every month. I do this every single month. 23rd, happy birthday. Thank you very much. My birthday was the 24th. So as a reminder, if you are a composer who wants to master your craft, if you are a composer and you want to be able to have the ability to portray any emotion, to evoke any emotion, if you want to master that ability, my emotions and music class is on sale, 20% off. It comes with 3 private lessons, and we don't have to cover this material. You can see with the module, you can see all the wonderful feedback I've gotten for the class. I think we've had 50 students take the class. I used to do cohort programs. So this one right now does not have 50 people enrolled, because this is now just take it at your own pace. But for about a solid year, I did weekly, cohorts, 6-week cohorts. We've had 50 students take the class, wonderful reviews. You get 3 private lessons. You get the class. It is currently on sale, 20% off, using coupon code FINEVINTAGE to celebrate my 30th birthday. That's why I brought this up. It's because 23 wished me a happy birthday, so thank you. So this is the birthday celebration, Fine Vintage, 20% off my emotions and music class. It comes with 3 private lessons. You get to take the class at your own pace. It is the only class. Remember, I went to school to be a therapist. I did not write my first piece of music until I was 22. I have a very unique approach to teaching emotions and music that other composers haven't quite used yet, because I was trained to be a therapist. I have a unique perspective on how music portrays emotions. It's not a mystery in the world of psych. It is not a mystery. We have understood for decades why emotions are evoked by, why music evokes emotions. And it's not because of templates, which makes sense. Musicians have traditionally taught emotions as templates, because if you want to learn how to write counterpoint, you study music. You want to write that uses counterpoint. You want to learn how to write for choir, you study choir music. So it makes sense. Why would you want to write music for this emotion? What do? You study the music that portrays that emotion. But that is a very limited approach, because you're just copying what other people did. If you want to evoke a unique emotion, unique to your story, you have to start by studying the emotion itself. This is something you will not be taught at music school. I should know, with my very brief stint in music school, I got very frustrated with the way emotions were taught, because, again, I spent 6 years of my life studying to be a therapist. It's not a mystery. If you want to learn, sign up for the class. There are payment plans available. It comes with 3 private lessons, and again, the class. It's wonderful. I will see you all there. Use coupon code FINEVINTAGE to celebrate my 30th. Viper Zen, paywalls, I can relate. Yes, early, the paywalls for everything. That's why I've spent so much time. I think I have 300 tutorials on YouTube. 300 YouTube tutorials. I do live streams twice a week, once for the community and once for my channel members. I try to do as much as I can for free. I have a blog, I have live streams, I have books, like the Composer's Roadmap is a free book all about teaching yourself how to compose music. I do a lot of stuff for free because of my early frustrations. Turd McNugget, just now able to hop on. I'm sad I missed the bulk of the stream. No worries. That's the beautiful thing, is you can always go back and read it, and you are here now. It is wonderful to have you, my friend. Viper Zen, you deserve every cent that you make. Thank you a lot. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I really do. Yes, if you guys would like to help support your boy, help make sure I can get food on my table, I can pay my bills, I can pay my student loans, sign up for, purchase my ebooks, sign up for private lessons, or take my emotions and music class. Again, that is on sale. The sale does end Monday. That is when the sale ends. So it is not on forever. Use that coupon code, FINEVINTAGE. Excellent. All right, I believe we have one more. SD Sheridan, another regular of the channel. Requests, I would like feedback on mixing. Clarity specifically. All right. Lots of mixing people this time around. I made this for an upcoming audiobook. Ooh, that's fun. Let's do it. Let's listen to it.
When it's time to scale your business.
Ads. No. Excellent. All right. Last one, my friends. I cannot believe it's already been over an hour and a half. 10 seconds left to the ad. Don't forget to like the stream, everybody. It's does wonders for the channel. Thank you very much. Let's listen.
Today.
That was fun. That works great for a sound audiobook. All right, so the audiobook I imagine is for like the title when they're announcing the pages, or maybe it's even like a certain. I imagine with audiobooks it's usually stuff like that where it's like, this is such and such book written by so and so, read by so and so, like the music where they're doing all the credits and stuff, or maybe it's something you do between chapters or something. It's things you do really well that ramp up at the beginning, and that that massive size to announce. We are here! It's a huge, beautiful sound. I love the brass, the choir, the strings, and then the modulation, changing keys. That's fun. I love that. Oh, I'm a sucker for a big, massive statement. That's beautiful. And then it tapers off very nicely and very naturally. Again, as you transition your listeners to the actual book. Very well done. The mix is really good. Like I said, the shape is very nice. Great contrast, going from huge brass and choir to like high strings. Then swapping into the woodwinds. This is a great example of a lot of the stuff we've been talking about today. Great arrangement. The contrast, the amount of contrast you have in 46 seconds is ridiculous. Starting off with that big brassy choiry sound, then swapping to high strings, mostly predominant, then woodwinds with a bit of percussion, then coming back down to strings again. In 40 seconds, you're changing timbres and registers. It's a big sound. It's up here. It's down here. It's back up here again. Changing the instruments being used. Very well done. Makes it very interesting. Gives it lots of energy. The faster you move around to different instruments and registers, the more energy your music has. It's a short piece, so I don't really have much to say about the mix that hasn't been said already. Only one thing I'd little add. Where is it? Oboe. That oboe, it's a little abrupt. Just to smooth it out, most of the time instruments will have a nice soft come down, like they'll decrescendo. They'll have the, even the piano does it naturally, but going for like the cello will rarely ever end on, which one's the cello? Is it this one? That's piano. It's max. Let's see. What is that? Oh, horns. I didn't know I had horns up. Anywho, so the horns will rarely end on, just end like that. They'll usually at least have some kind of decrescendo. It doesn't need to go all the way to silence, but it'll have that sign of getting softer to provide that sense of, okay, it's transitioning. And the oboe is just missing that right here. And so it sounds a little jarring. It doesn't sound, no musician would do that. Anytime you've got the melody, it's almost intuitive. Unless the composer had written "do not fade out," almost every musician performing, as part of that expressive nature, performance, little like nuanced things that just most musicians are gonna just taper that up. So that's a little bit different. If this is like finale or muse score or something, you can go in under and force it to do that. Just Google how to do that, how to change the dynamics of a line, or change the velocity or modulation data. If you did this in a DAW, you can do that. That's the only thing that stuck out to me as being a little jarring, but overall, this is very well done. A very fun title piece. All right. We're at the end of the stream, my friends. Thank you to everyone who stopped by. All right. I had a lot of fun with this. I really did. Thank you to everyone who submitted the music. Thank you to everyone who participated in the chat. Thank you for everyone who didn't and just stopped by and enjoyed the stream silently. I appreciate you as well. Thank you very much. Don't forget, Emotion the Music course is on sale, 20% off using the code FINEVINTAGE, all caps, to celebrate my 30th birthday. All right, that is the coupon code. You can also show support through purchasing my resources, all of my books. I have a book on portraying emotion with music. I have my textbook on composing. If you have never written music but you're interested, this will teach you. If you're a beginner or an intermediate or anyone who just wants to get better at writing harmony, melody, full structured pieces, or arranging, all of it covered in this textbook. And lots of other really cool resources as well. Every purchase helps support me. It helps go directly to me, helps me pay my bills, helps me keep the lights on, helps me pay my student loans, all that good stuff. It helps me make new content. So thank you very much, everybody. Don't forget to leave a like. Don't forget to follow the page. Follow me on Instagram. And thank you. It's been a wonderful time. I will see you all next week. All right. Enjoy your weekend. Bye-bye.